Okay. Hi, everyone. It's 6:59, and I'm sure people are gathering. If you are gathering, we are officially starting in 30 seconds or 40 seconds, but put your name in the comments. And if you're on Facebook, I think you can comment when you're on YouTube. Just put your name in the comments, say hi to everybody. And I have the comments up in live so that I can watch and see. It's 7 o'clock, and this is Wondering Wednesday with Marna. And I want to start today with a deep breath. It feels to me as though the last week has been hectic. And I don't know if it's been hectic for you, but it's been hectic for me. And it doesn't make sense that this time of year, when it's getting darker and the days are getting shorter, that it almost feels more hectic. And so part of Wondering Wednesdays with Marna is to slow down a little bit and have an opportunity to be quiet and slow. This week, hey, Jan. Today I was thinking, or this week I was thinking about children a lot. I've been thinking about wondering and children because when I think about it, children are almost consistently and constantly in a state of wondering. They're constantly putting things together that we don't necessarily put together. And to them, the pressures of the day may not seem really overwhelming because they get to play and they go from one play to another. That's the ideal, right, of childhood, is that you get to have long periods of time where you play. Oh, look, I'm saying hi from Kathy, Deb, and Bud. This is so fun. I could just sit here and read the comments and read how everybody is. Maybe I'll do that a little bit. As we get into Wondering Wednesdays, I wanted to talk a little bit about what we wondered about last week. Does anybody who was here last week have anything to say? I would love to hear your reflections from last week and what you all might have done, and what kind of wondering questions or what kind of habits you might have discovered last week in your approach to not thinking about things. Remember that last week I talked about how wondering is not like thinking, and it's not like analyzing, and it's not like coming to a conclusion, and it's not like writing something definite, and it's not like accomplishing anything. Wondering is when you put your mind behind your heart. You put your thought process behind your heart, and we let our hearts lead us into places that we wouldn't necessarily go all the time. And that wondering is helped out by things like play and things like imagination, and how wondering is also helped by engaging our senses, our sense of smell, our sense of taste, our sense of touch, the beautiful things in sight, and that we compared that to liturgy. One of the first things I did, in fact, the first thing that I did when I got to Marquette on September 26th, I think that was the date, was I was with Kathy, Deb, and Bud at a sacred circle. And it was outside, and it was beautiful, and there was smell, and there was touch, and there were gentle words, and there was time. And we sat and talked to each other with all of the space in the world between our comments. And as one person spoke, we let what they said percolate inside of us. And then as we came to our turn to speak, we were able to speak aloud into the center of the circle what it was that was on our hearts. And that had the spirit of wonder to it. It was really beautiful. I want us to be able to, when we're here together on Wednesdays, think about and be together in kind of this spacious place where we can play a little bit, and we can talk a little bit, and we can wonder about the season, and we can slow down, and we can let the darkness have its way with us. I think sometimes we battle against the darkness. I know I do. I just bought one of those I call it the glow lights, the grow lights for me, this fake sun that you sit in front of. But I know that sometimes in the dark, when when the days are getting shorter, I tend to put on more lights. I tend to make sure that the house isn't dim. Instead of maybe getting out my knitting or sitting quietly or let the darkness just have its way with me or go into bed a little bit earlier than I usually do. Tonight, I want to talk about story and how story can help us to wonder. But I promised you that I'd introduce you to a couple of things and catch you up on a couple of things that I've been doing. I decided that I would color along with the rest of you all. Here's my coloring. And I have to tell you that what I discovered this week is that I have the arts and crafts level of a 5-year-old. I was making cards with somebody on a Zoom session, and their cards were so refined and beautiful, and my cards looked like they came from a kindergarten class. I had all these card stock and then had put together these little packets of card decorations that we could use to make cards. We're sending them to Brownsville, Texas, and Matamoros, Mexico, to the kids that live on the border. And but what I loved about the process was this: were all these things, all of this like material, right? And doesn't this doily look like it should be on a Valentine's Day card instead of a Christmas card? But that was in my little packet, along with like some pretty card stock from Kathy B, some beautiful pieces of paper. And she actually had a paper stamp that made things like this. And so we spent an hour listening to stories about these kids on the border. And then we were making cards, and I had so much fun making the cards. And as I was making the card, I realized that I was listening better because I wasn't trying so hard to listen, that I was listening better. But I also noticed that there was this little inner critic inside of me saying, your card isn't as beautiful as the other cards that are being made. Like, how come your card looks like a 5-year-old? And I decided that I needed to say something on Wondering Wednesdays, that if you're using arts and crafts to help you get into that wondering place, beating yourself up about the product is probably not going to work very well. Like when I say, ooh, this card is ugly, it kind of gets me out of that wondering place instead of really enjoying playing with the materials ahead of me. So that's what I've done with this. I decided that I would just play with it. And I've got this little thing going on, right, that I'm trying to figure out. And it's making me have a lot of fun. And as I'm doing that, I can feel my heart rate go down. I can feel myself entering into this other sphere of things. I told you that I would show you the shepherds today. Okay, shepherd, how do you turn them so that they get, there it goes. Look at that shepherd's face. And I called Becky in Ishpeming and got the story about her mama and how her mom came to be knitting these. And I thought it would be some amazing story about being asked and the church didn't have it. But no, it's even a better story, which was that her mom just loved to knit, and she would knit anything. She loved to knit anything and everything. And so these are just a legacy of some imaginative process that she had that she was going to do, and she just knitted them. And of course, we need to say hello to the sheep. Otherwise, it wouldn't be Wondering Wednesday. Those are my favorite. So story. Let's talk about story. When my kids were little, I had a really good friend who would go to the park and play with us. And she invited us to her house around Christmas time. It was in Advent, and she was a practicing Unitarian Universalist person. And her mom was too. They grew up in that tradition. And she said, I want to show you what my mom made for my kids. And she brought out a basket. And believe it or not, when I knew that I was doing Wondering Wednesdays, She has now moved to Vermont from Arkansas. I called her up and I said, Donna, do you think you could tell me about that basket that your mom made? Because I don't really understand how she made it, but I was so impressed how she took the story and made it available to children. So I want to show you her basket. She sent it to me. This is the basket that she showed. So it's a Christmas basket, and can you see it's got all these little tins in it. It's got all these little tins, and all of the tins have a number on them. That one's number 6. This tin is number 2. We've got, I think this is number 8, and they must have been tins that she got like at Goodwill or saved them. This one's number 4. They're all really different. So can you imagine being a family or a kid getting this box? It looks like a box of presents. And then what she did was in each box, you would line them up. There are 15 boxes, 15 containers, all different sizes and shapes. And you line them up on the table, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 15. And in each of these boxes, let me open one for you. It has a verse from scripture. And so this one says, at the time of the journey, Mary was expecting a child. The angel had told her that this baby would one day be the bringer of hope to all the world. Luke 2. And then inside is a little picture, is a little statue of Mary. And so every part of the story has a little box that goes with it. Like number 8, let's see what's in number 8. This is down halfway through the story. Halfway through the story, you get this. There it is. It's a little wreath she found. And this one says, the shepherds said to each other, come, let's go to Bethlehem. And they found their way to Mary and Joseph, and there was baby Jesus laying in a manger. And this is supposed to be Mary and Joseph and Jesus laying in a manger. And as I got these boxes out, I got thinking, why did I love watching her introduce me to this basket so much? And what I loved was the children's response. Excuse me, because all of my children were there, and the kids were probably 10 years and under. And they would take each box and open it up and read it was as if they were hearing the story for the first time. It was as if the next step was a new surprise. And what got me thinking about was how sometimes we rush through the stories so much that we don't really land on anything, because we're so busy rushing through the story that we don't really, land on one part of the story for ourselves. So I wanted to talk a little bit, and I really would love your comments about this. I really want to talk about how we enter into story. If we think about it, the story is the same every year. All of the stories that we hear in our tradition, every year it's the same. We hear the same stories over and over and over again. When we come to Christmas time, when we come to Advent and we come to these stories, though, the story is the same, but we are different. Every year that we come to the story, we are different. We're different people. Our lives have had experiences. We've grown a little bit. We're a little older. Things have happened in our family. Things have happened in our world. So even though the story stays the same, we are different people. And as we come to the story, as are the different people that we are, my hunch is that we can enter into it through the eyes of a different character in the story. That were we to ask ourselves, who in this story this year am I most drawn to? And if I were to enter into the story through that person's eyes, what would it be like? There is an amazing YouTube video out there. If you Google YouTube New Zealand Christmas or YouTube New Zealand Nativity, there is this hysterical, it's called an unconventional and unexpected nativity. And it's this great film that's done with kids. It's all kids. And the cinematography is beautiful and the props are beautiful and it's all in white. And we've got the set of twins that are sort of mischievous. But the point of view is from the point of view of God. And it starts and it says, if we could pull back the curtains and see behind the scene, what we would end up with is seeing God. And this young boy, who's probably 12, all dressed in white, he says, I'm not feeling very happy about my children down there. They feel very separated from me, and I don't really like it. I think maybe we have to do something about it. And then you see the warrior angels, and they say, we should come and make sure they do right, and we should with the swords. And he says, God says, no, I don't think we send an army. And I think we send a baby. And one of the twins says, well, they won't be expecting that. And then all the angels say, a baby? And you go through the story and they debunk all the things. Oh, well, if it's a baby, then it has to be in a very protected place, like in a big house with lots of guards. And God says, no, I think that maybe we'll have them born in it's like a stable. A stable, says the angels, with animals and poop. And the little twin says, oh, they won't be expecting that. And then he goes on and on and on and tells that what's going to happen. And I wrote down the punchline. It comes in the middle of this video. He says, because they're saying, hey, how will they find him? If we don't have trumpets and we don't have, big things, how will they find him? And this is what God says. God says, they will find him, and his mission will bring people closer to me, even if they do something wrong. And this is the line I love. When the prince is done, nothing will get between them and my love. When the prince is done, nothing will get between them and my love. And the prince is Jesus, the Prince of Heaven. When the prince is done, nothing will get between them and my love. Have you ever heard anything better about the gospel? Isn't that a great way to sum up what the whole incarnation is about? Nothing. When the prince is done, nothing will get between them and my love. And then in the video, the angels get so excited. They say, oh, but can we sing for him? Can we sing for him? Can we announce him by singing? And they're looking at him and they say, oh, please let us sing for him. And God says, okay, you can sing. Yeah, but not to any kings or princes. That would be weird. You can sing to the shepherds. The shepherds? Yeah, the shepherds. And the little boy goes, oh, they won't be expecting that, right? But the joy in these angels' faces about, oh, could we please just sing for him? It made me weep, like I'm almost there now, because how often have we entered into the story of Jesus coming to earth, being incarnate, from the point of view of either God, who set it all up, God as Father, God as Mother, sending their child, the Prince. How many times do we sit and ponder? How do we sit and ponder that? What point of view do we take? Like in the angels, of course, the angels would be delighted. But do we think about the angels and how the angels might have been? Yes, I know that's like putting human emotions on angels, But if we enter the story through the view of the angels, how does that loosen something inside of us? How does it make the story less pro forma and more into what it can be for our hearts where we are this Christmas? So I'm wondering if anybody would feel like sharing of all the characters in the Christmas story, whether it be Mary or Joseph or the angel Gabriel or Elizabeth or the donkey. Well, we've got that story that was added on, or the person that gave them a place to live, or the angels, or the three kings, or the star. Like, what if you could make the star into a person? Would that be your point of view? Who are you most drawn to this year at this time? Who are you most drawn to in the story? You could write it down if you want to. You could just think about it. This week, I was having a conversation with somebody who was on Wondering Wednesdays last week and said, this person said, I really don't think I'm a arts and crafts kind of girl. I don't think I'm a woman. I don't really do that. But I think that writing is the way that I express my creativity. And I wonder if you could write the story from the point of view of the character to which you are most inclined. Mary. Lydia's drawn to Mary. And you're going to love next week, because next week is all about the girls. Pink candles, girls, the whole thing. We are having a girl party next week. You might want to wear your pajamas and get some hot chocolate. Isla, I want to know why you're drawn to Mary. That's what I want to know. I'm kind of drawn to Mary too. I'm drawn to Mary in the story. I'm also really drawn to Joseph because he doesn't get a lot of play. He doesn't get a lot of press time. And I'm drawn to how he stood up to what he needed to. And yet I wonder what it was like for him. And then what that does is it makes me wonder. So let's pretend I'm going to do this exercise that I'm asking you to do. This is what I would say. I would say, okay, I am drawn this week to Joseph. I am drawn this season to Joseph, which is weird for me because usually I'm drawn to Mary. But Joseph had to have a supportive role, and Joseph had to figure out how to act with integrity and not accept perhaps the shame and the ridicule. Okay, so then I ask myself the question, so what is it inside of me that needs the same fortitude as Joseph? Is there something that I need to stand up to right now, or that I am standing up to right now? Maybe something that I've done or something that I feel like I want to do that goes against society's rules, because that's kind of what he did. Or what part of me wants to be able to protect the divine in somebody else, because that's what he did? What part of me wants to be open to the dream of an angel, to the dream that might come to me? What part of me is yearning to follow in Joseph's footsteps and protect the divine anywhere that the divine needs to go? If the divine needs to go into Egypt, I want to go and protect that spirit that's in exile. Maybe I feel that, like the divine, like God is in exile and I'm the protector. Do you see how these wondering questions come? Isla said this about Mary. I don't know why I like her so much. I know she just seems like someone really important in the story, and I appreciate that. And that's why I'm drawn to her. And Isla, I would say to you that you are someone really important in the story of God getting incarnate in the earth. That you, in the way that you do life, the way that you open your heart to new discoveries, which is what Jesus did, and say yes to some things when they're hard, and go on adventures when you need to in order to follow your heart, because that's what Mary did. Maybe that's what Mary's saying to you. So maybe when we're drawn to a character in the story can speak back to us and say, this is who you are, my child, this nativity, this Christmas, this is who you are. So last week on Wondering Wednesdays was a lot of doing, a lot of, showing you this and that, and we could try this and we could do that. And this week, I want us to think about who in the story is touching our hearts. Who in the story are it could be touching our hearts because we're so mad at them and we think they're ridiculous. But then once we know who it is in the story that is the character that we are most aligned to this year, the question is asking, okay, what about that character? And then what about me that has to do with that character? What about me? What is it about me that needs to be either like that character or wants to do what that character in the story did? Maybe if you're drawn to a wise man, you're ready to give your gifts to God. I don't know. But do you feel the sense? Do you see how different this is from analyzing the story, how different it is from memorizing it and knowing all the different parts? It's kind of like going behind a stage and saying, how would we tell this story differently? And what does that mean to my heart? Do I have any comments? Anybody want to say anything? Let's see if I can scroll. I'm going to finish today with the same prayer, the same poem prayer that we did last week, because we Episcopalians like to repeat things over and over and over again. I like the first line because it's, "Oh, Jesus, meek and mild, come to me as a little child." And that's kind of what wondering is being playful like a child. "Oh, Jesus, meek and mild, come to me as a little child. Teach me not to strive to obey. Teach me to hold you. Help me to play. Oh, Jesus, little babe, come to me not as one who saves. Come to me as one who loves in childlike ways, with arms and hugs. Savior God, Holy Father, send to me this little child, born in a stable, announced by the stars. Send him to me to touch all my scars. Help me to trust that someday he'll grow, that someday as helper, this man I will know. I'm estranged from the man and so need the child. So come to me, Jesus, as a babe, meek and mild." Okay, everybody, that's it. Wandering Wednesdays. And next week, a little hint, we will be spending a lot of time with Mary and Elizabeth and their interactions, because for me, the third week of Advent is all about the girls. It's all about the ladies. So have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week.